Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Docker Enterprise Edition and Cisco UCS and Contiv webinar. A few housekeeping items before we get started. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be sent out after the webinar. We will take questions at the end of the session, so please type them as they come up in the Q&A window, and we will make sure to answer them. I will now turn things over to our speakers, Bradley Wong, Director of Product Management at Docker, and Siva Kumar, Senior Director, UCS Solutions at Cisco. Bradley?
All right, fantastic.
Take it away.
So welcome, everyone, to the edition at Cisco UCS and Contiv webinar. So before we get started, I wanted to actually go through a couple of things that to provide a background of why we decided to move into this exciting partnership between Docker and Cisco. So I think everyone on the webinar probably knows that there's been quite a significant amount of Docker projects being deployed all around the world across multiple different industries, different markets, and for a variety of different use cases. So in the latest stats that we've been collecting, we've seen Docker hosts grow to about 15 million deployments, applications exceed 900,000, and container pools from the hub and store up to 12 billion. So definitely some really good numbers that we've been seeing, but I don't think it's going to stop there. We see a lot of momentum, and the market also sees a lot of momentum there as well. Reports from analysts, from ETR, and from the RightScale State of the Cloud shows that Docker is way up there as well, both in terms of intentions to spend, as well as the DevOps tool to use of choice is now really if not one of the top tool that's there. So all things point on the upside for Docker, but you probably have realized that there's also a couple of things that potential deployments are also questioning as well, and these questions come up in multiple ways. So quite a few different reports have said this in terms of the challenges, which can be anywhere from container management to day two operations, monitoring. How do I secure my deployment? How do I multi-container applications? And also just general personnel challenges as well. Like, do I have to retrain my staff to be able to cater for this new way of operating containers now? Is it a one-for-one replacement of VMs? A lot of these questions naturally always come up. And, before we even sort of are able to address the deployment, we need to address some of these challenges as well. Now, we've been talking to both users and also customers of ours for the past few years. And the interesting thing is that there's usually almost kind of a direct correlation of how folks are deploying these into their enterprise organizations. The first step, which we find a lot of the times, is that enterprise organizations are taking their existing applications and containerizing those existing applications, and which might sound counterintuitive for some, because they've been running for a while, but there's quite some benefits to doing that, and we'll go through some of those as well. The next step that we also see after that initial containerization journey is that a lot of our customers are also then starting to take those containerized applications and start integrating them into CI/CD pipelines to be able to get that agile movement from dev to test and eventually through to production. So to be able to iterate through all those different phases in a fast manner, that's been another significant step forwards for a lot of our customers as well. And the third step of the journey is probably interesting, because what you probably find is that a lot of the marketing messages that come out regarding containers talks a lot about microservices, but that usually only comes right at the end of the journey, where the users would go embark on the first two, get those quick wins, and then look at starting to break down these more traditional monolithic applications into smaller services. And then those eventually would come broken down even further, and then decompose them into microservices. So only after that point do a lot of these applications in enterprise organizations then really start looking more and more like the microservices that we all have come to love. So with that, I think there's a really big focus now on looking at how do we even make that first journey? How do we even sort of take that that journey from where we are today, which is probably minimal or zero container adoption in the enterprise companies, and be able to move them into quick wins into and then seeing the benefits of those for traditional applications. And coming back to the previous slide that I put up, some of those challenges need to be addressed for that. And it's pretty evident that none of this can be done just by one company, and we really need to lean on our partners to be able to take care of some of these challenges. And that's why we've decided to embark on a strategic partnership, together with Docker, together with Cisco, to be able to address some of these challenges. This alliance was announced back in March this year, and it's really designed as a phased approach. The first few things that we want to address are really to take what Docker does well and what Cisco does well and marry those together. So from a technology space, one of the key areas that we really felt that Cisco can bring is really the bread and butter of the company, which is its networking DNA, taking into account what IT operations really value about networking, highly performant, highly secure and scalable networking, through Contiv, through the Nexus portfolio, and through the Cisco UCS portfolio, to be able to create a very, very powerful container networking fabric, and be able to marry that up with the Docker networking, container networking model, and be able to bring an end-to-end networking stack into production. The second thing that we wanted to focus on is security. Security being one of the also key areas that our customers are finding highly important to be able to deploy containers in production. With Docker Enterprise Edition being very, very focused on security and bringing least privilege security, being able to do policies and security scanning, but we wanted to extend that all the way down into the infrastructure stack, and that's definitely something that we needed to work together with the Cisco team, with Contiv, to be able to address microsegmentation policies and drive those from the application into the infrastructure as well. So that's another area that we wanted to focus on. Orchestration, so Docker Enterprise Edition with Docker Data Center takes care of orchestrating the applications and the deployment of those applications through using swarm mode to automatically schedule those out across the different nodes. And we obviously needed to also make sure that the infrastructure, the compute nodes that they were deployed upon, were also automated and automatically provisioned as well. So integration and looking at areas of future integration with Cisco UCS management to be able to take those two things and see how we can gel those together to make a more demand-driven, automated way to provision infrastructure. And last but not least, the topic of data management comes up. How do we also provide for a secure but also a stable and highly resilient platform to support the images, where those images are stored for Docker images, but as well as for any persistent storage that the container is required to consume as well. So the Cisco infrastructure certainly provides some of that, but in that sense, we also work together with two of our partners as well in that space, NetApp, to be able to deliver plugins to be able to have a more resilient storage platform that can also be used to back-end persistent data for container requirements as well. So on the business side of things, we also decided to bridge together to be able to give users a more seamless approach to be able to get support for their deployments across the infrastructure and also the Docker deployment. So we are leveraging the Cisco solution support. So if any customers basically purchase the Enterprise Edition from Cisco or Docker that's also certified, we'll get a single point of call to reach into the Cisco TAC, the Cisco technical support, and be able to have a single case ownership with that and manage that through the process of any issues they have. And last but not least, just being able to bring enterprise class features and assurance end-to-end testing of the full solution, ranging from the infrastructure all the way up into the applications as a single turnkey deployment. That's, I think, was very important to a lot of our enterprise customers as well. So with that in mind, I know we focus a lot about enterprise, so a lot of our audiences are asking, well, is Docker in the enterprise? And the answer is actually yes. We've now got a lot of deployments across multiple different verticals, ranging not just from the tech industry, but public sector, banking and finance, healthcare, all across the board. There's really a lot of different names, different scales that will resonate with each and every one of your verticals as well. So depending on where these different customers are in their journey, they've either already gone ahead and converted some of their traditional applications into containers, or are now in the process of converting some of those decomposing those into microservices. So, and each and every one of these customers has a different journey, but for sure, a lot of them actually start from that initial deployment, which is taking their existing applications and moving those into containers. And the benefits of that certainly can be realized through more secure, more efficient, and more lean deployments with containers. And last but not least, also to be portable across different environments as well. So the reality of a lot of these environments is that it's not just a single deployment type. A lot of these companies require that their applications are deployed across multiple different data centers, across both on-premises as well as public clouds. There's really a mix of different types of applications, ranging from Linux to even mainframe applications and Windows applications, all across the board, and really needs to sort of stretch across not just from developers, but also branch into the IT operations. So each and every one of these customers are actually looking forwards to be able to have a single platform to be able to do all of these different services on. And that's where Docker really comes in and really adds a lot of benefit, because the premise of the platform at its get-go is to provide portability, to democratize the developer and to democratize IT operations. So you can have the flexibility of moving things around different environments and moving things across different premises as well. So if you look at also then the different types of applications, Docker Enterprise Edition also allows us to take not just microservices, which is what containers are usually associated to, but traditional applications, integrate those into CI/CD pipelines, and be able to run the full gamut of the different infrastructures, whether they be sitting on existing infrastructure, on new infrastructure in the data center, or moving into cloud data centers or public cloud infrastructures as well. For the most part, Docker is really not married to any one of those, but we certainly will want to partner with some of these different solutions to be able to create differentiation and benefits to our customers so that the experience can be a lot better. So that's where we basically start on the actual journey. And like all journeys, there's always a beginning, and we started from the developer persona. And the developers are usually where Docker really takes hold. In many organizations, even IT operations aren't aware of a lot of the work that's being done by developers with Docker, and it usually comes to surface after there's quite a few wins already. Being able to iterate on code, being able to fix bugs within the first couple of hours that a new developer has come online. That's all great stories that we've heard of our customers talk to us about that have really been able to get up and running with Docker and be able to really get productive with the platform as quickly as possible. So we introduced 2 additions, what we call additions, which are really packages that really makes that get up and running experience very, very easy for developers. One is Docker for Mac, the other one is Docker for Windows. And that really leverages the native platform, whether you're running on Mac OS or Windows, to really take advantage of those platforms and provide native out-of-the-box experience so that the tooling completely gets out of the way and developers are able to be productive immediately. And whether it's using their existing tools, whether there is an existing Docker file that they can manipulate and modify and build, or they're basically pulling down new applications that are sitting on Docker Store or Docker Hub, or be able to take their existing legacy applications and start manipulating those. Those are things that our developers are finding very, very quick, easiest to do on the platform because of the nature of the format of Docker being very, very portable, being one single format to be standardized around, and also is able to extend across different platforms as well, across both Linux and also Windows environments. We also cater for more complex type of applications in this case. So you're not just constrained to a single container deployment. Entire applications can be described through Compose, and that certainly is something that developers find quite useful as well. So the next phase where Docker really then starts to take a hold is after developers start sharing with their different teams, other members of the development team or the testing environments. This is kind of where we really start to see some of the values of having an enterprise-grade support with Docker. So the first and foremost, there is a central registry that could be deployed. We have a platform called the Docker Trusted Registry, which allows users to push and pull secure images with scanning, with signing, and be able to guarantee full provenance of those images across the whole lifecycle of deployment. We've also recently introduced the store where users can also then pull curated content, whether it's free or whether it's paid for content, and be able to move those into a local on-premise registry for consumption with local developers. So you can see that with this, teams are able to get more interactive and be able to then iterate a lot faster within an organization. And this really is kind of the start of what we call a software supply chain. So once again, going from the creation of the actual application through to iterating on it, through to testing, and then back to developing as well. And finally, when we move into production, this is really where the platform really relies on solid infrastructure that has been tested, validated, and curated. We've created with a couple of additional additions which are designed to be able to be used by Docker for trusted deployment across a variety of different Linux operating systems, including CentOS, RHEL, Oracle Linux, SLES, and also Ubuntu. And last but not least, also Windows Server 2016 as well. So all of those are able to support a full production use of Docker and to be able to, once again, help our customers go through that secure supply chain into production. And finally, last but not least, to tie that all together, we have been able to also introduce complete management of that whole lifecycle through something we call the Docker Unified Control Plane, or UCP for short, part of the Docker Enterprise Edition package, which allows for a secure deployment, the ability to scale the applications, and also be able to schedule those applications to run seamlessly across infrastructure. So this is basically what we call the Docker Container as a Service model, or CaaS for short, and it's working out very, very well. But I think a lot of the questions then arise as far as that's concerned is, well, what about their infrastructure? And this is where it's important for our users to realize that there's the infrastructure doesn't just stop at the operating system level, that there are considerations that also need to be met at the on-premise compute or cloud compute level, and on-premise storage and cloud storage, and on-premise network and cloud storage, cloud networking, that also needs to be fine-tuned as well for better performance, security, and scale. And this is where we really then decided to work together closely with Cisco to not just have a piecemeal solution, but to have something that can be packaged together, certified and validated and brought to market, and last but not least, supported. And with that, we work with Cisco very closely, specifically with the Unified Computing System team, the UCS team, as well as the Contiv team to bring this into fruition. So with that, I'll like to hand over to my esteemed colleague, Siva Kumar, Senior Director of UCS Solutions from Cisco, to go through some of the details of that work.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Siva Kumar. If you really look at the journey that we are in this model, we have seen containers evolve in the last 3 to 5 years extensively to where we are today. And now we are coming from a journey where the IT, or the traditional IT that we know, was heavily focused on bringing virtualization to bear, bringing efficiency to the infrastructure, better utilization. That was truly the drive for why virtualization caught on like fire. And truly a lot of infrastructure, a lot of optimization that went into that was truly to bring that into a simple and easy to use fashion. But now if you look at the journey we are in, the biggest thing that is driving containers, the biggest factor that's actually making it so successful in the industry is the speed and the agility that it really brings to the IT. It's really the ability to develop and deliver capabilities for your business at a speed that was completely impossible in a previous generation. Is truly why container shines in this current model. I know it started, obviously, the container revolution started more in the cloud side, but as millions or thousands and thousands of containers are now available, and now corporates are really looking to figure out how can I leverage this agility and speed and bring to bear. Now is the time where we really see a lot of enterprises looking at containers to actually bring that efficiency and the agility and speed back in their data center. If you look back at UCS, Cisco UCS, which we brought to the market about a decade ago, it was truly a revolutionary platform architecture that was built on a single biggest model that we brought to bear, a fabric-based computing platform that drove a huge amount of efficiency and programmability into the data center. We truly changed the way that people did manage infrastructure at scale. It was a single management plane for a massive amount of infrastructure. Whether you're starting a very small infrastructure or you're growing to a very large size, the unified management framework that we brought is absolutely top-notch in that space. But not only we built from ground up for a very flexible management architecture, we also invested heavily in the programmability and integration capability of the platform. This is an extensively programmable architecture, UCS, in its entirety, and it's also very easy and simple to integrate into the rest of the ecosystem through other tools and methodologies. So the true strength of UCS was a very flexible architecture, unified management platform, extensive programmability. Over time, we adopted UCS architecture to actually fit a whole breadth of evolution that happened in the industry. While we started on the virtualization path, we have actually evolved into much more of this software-defined storage work, more into the hyperconvergence market that we are in now. So virtualized, bare metal, hyperconverged, scale-out storage, a variety of architecture we fit within the same operational framework. If you really look at sort of where we are in the industry now, we are at over 57,000 customers on Cisco UCS. We are number one in the integrated infrastructure market, which was truly our cornerstone to the evolution as well. We've brought together a very simple turnkey model of infrastructure management and deployment at scale in the data center. We are number one in the market share in the US, and we continue to execute and grow. Hyperconvergence, our HyperFlex platform, is now over 1,200 customers in just a year, so it's really rapidly growing there as well. But we have truly built a platform that has a huge foothold in the data center, in the enterprises that they really care about. But something we did very extensively within the UCS platform is not just build a server platform. We really built innovation at every level in the platform. Whether it is a ASIC level innovation within our adapter technology called the Cisco WIC with the system link, where we are bringing new capabilities such as more security, analytics, and data acceleration, or a form factor agnostic way of looking at infrastructure, whether you're looking at blades or rack servers or a new set of form factors coming in, as well as an end-to-end automation and orchestration layer that is really required for you to integrate this into a larger ecosystem. What we've really done was several of these innovations happens within our platform at Cisco, but many of these things we partner extensively with the rest of the ecosystem vendors to actually bring that to bear. If you really look at the ecosystem partnership, we actually take this policy-based management framework that UCS brings to bear and integrate it much more into the industry's standard model that is evolving as well, whether it is Puppet or Chef or any of those frameworks out there, or scripting framework out there, or whether you are really using Jenkins to build your container and run those things, but you want the infrastructure to leverage open source tools and methodologies. We have several levels of integration, and it's a big team doing that work. So why that's really important for you is at the heart of an agile system that truly a container is built to deliver is also the infrastructure capability. It's important to understand, unless the underlying infrastructure also has a ground-up model for that flexibility and scale and implementation strategies, it's not easy to achieve the flexibility that you want when you deploy containers at a large scale. But it's also important to understand that most of the container developers or the IT that's bringing leverages the industry standard tools to actually build it out. While we have flexibility, programmability on ours, until we integrate that with the extensive industry standards, it's not that easy to bridge the gap and bring it together. So that's truly the end-to-end picture we bring at the UCS level: platform level innovation, programmability, integration into the tools and methodologies that are very prevalent in the industry that truly allows for the DevOps model, continuous integration, CI/CD development model, as well as scaling model. So that truly brings together a platform approach of why we bring a solution together. What we also have done extensively is taken our capabilities on the platform, compute, network, and others, and integrated with several storage vendors in the industry. And that's a very standard integrated infrastructure platform that we offer for the IT today. We are absolutely the market leader in the integrated infrastructure market with about 70% market share as of the latest, 69.7%. So it's a very extensive integration work we do with storage partners to bring together a platform approach. And also within the same framework, we have a hyperconverged as well as a scale-out approach. So that truly brings together a breadth of platform offers that can deploy a variety of use cases. As Brad was talking early on, the IT today already has several environments in their data center. The Linux environment, the VMware environment, and so many others. and now they have to bring a new environment together in the same model. So what our approach to bringing together a platform solution for deploying the Docker Enterprise Edition and the entire container framework is to continue on the way that IT has built and operated before, but provide the same operational efficiency that a container deployment really deserves. To that effect, we have released 2 Cisco validated designs, one focused on the stateless containers, primarily with a set of UCS servers, truly looking at stateless model, with of course high availability and no single point of failure design, but another one for a more mature stateful container implementation with the flex part on the right side of this picture. And all these solutions were jointly engineered by Cisco and Docker engineering team together, fully validated and qualified for no single point of failure, and also delivered in a much more turnkey fashion. And if you look at some of the advantages of the joint solution, obviously with a platform like UCS, where we are built for significant scale. So this platform brings together the scalability that we are looking for. And because we do failover at the hardware level with the Cisco technology in the adapter side, we truly have a very fast and a very resilient failover methodology for the end-to-end deployment. And because our infrastructure can be provisioned and deprovisioned as well as brought back online very, very rapidly, we facilitate the DevOps model in a very simple fashion. So for your ability to actually have a build cycle certainly requiring massive number of capacity to actually get through the build cycle, and then of course reprovision those server capability for something else is something you can achieve seamlessly with the UCS architecture. In fact, if you look at Cisco IT today, we have a very strong containerization model. We have Docker in our data center, a Swarm, and the whole framework of the management tools as well. And we absolutely build and operate in containers. So the Cisco IT again uses several of the technology we're talking about. So it's important to understand we also are practicing what we preach. And specifically, if you look at some of the CVDs that we've released, on the stateless container design, we have 2 variations. One is the blade servers with local storage for building out the container environment. You could scale from as small as 3 to 4 blades, depending on the number of copies of number of levels of redundancy you want for the different roles. But you could start from 3 to 4 blades, and you can add more blades as you need to create a capacity requirement for the deployment. Or conversely, you could use the 1RU rack mount servers that we have in place that allows you to really bring a very simple package of 4 servers to actually start your container deployment. Again, 4 servers still brings a level of HA at every level of the implementation, whether you're really looking at the control plane or the image repository or the containerized implementation, the data, all of that is packaged in a very simple fashion. We absolutely expect an infrastructure like this with the programmable templates we have built for containers with the UCS Manager. We can turn on and deploy this in a very rapid fashion and scale in a very quick fashion as well. And of course, bring the Docker Enterprise Edition, the whole management framework also packaged together. Our goal is to actually simplify how quickly you can bring up a simple containerized infrastructure that you want to start. And this same architecture that we have leveraged here is absolutely scalable to hundreds and hundreds of servers. This is how multi-data center sites are built. But the ability of UCS designed to start very small and still maintain the exact same templatization and architecture for a very large scale is truly the strength of why we actually have a very strong play in this space. So we'll start like that, and then we have the solution scaling. We have tested to thousands of containers in our infrastructure in the labs. So we certainly feel very confident that this infrastructure is quite stable and it is actually scalable to a large scale. And of course, the flagship solution from our perspective for stateful containers would be the FlexPod design. FlexPod is an extremely successful Cisco and NetApp business. We are easily over a couple of $1 billion a year in the run rate. It's very well adopted. We have thousands and thousands of customers deploying FlexPod in their data center. So it's truly with the reach as well as the adoption of FlexPod that we absolutely brought the whole Docker Enterprise Edition on FlexPod. And this is also powered with the additional plugins that NetApp has developed in this space for the Docker data center. So there is a volume plugin that NetApp has that allows us to bring together a complete solution on FlexPod. And this plugin is also certified and available in the Docker store for download. So it is a fully certified plugin from NetApp that allows storage integration in a more seamless fashion, and it is part of the solution as we have rolled out. Of course, the Cisco part, which is very critical for this conversation, is also the Cisco networking technology. Contiv is a 100% open source container networking fabric from Cisco. The Contiv is obviously a technology we've been working for the past 2 years, and it is available. The benefits of using Contiv are the flexibility and choice it provides for different networking backends. For example, if you support overlay networking as well as non-overlay modes such as layer 1 and layer 2 and 3 or ACI, you could leverage this technology. For example, you need the overlay mode for some and you don't need them for some others. And for certain use cases, you need extra performance that Contiv provides by supporting layer 2 and avoiding VXLAN encapsulation type of things. Another big strength of Cisco's networking technology, specifically Contiv, is how it leverages the programmable or the policy-based automation framework we have. Because if you really think about it, containers live for seconds or milliseconds, and the big thing you need is really a policy-based engine that can be actually extremely simple and scalable for these ephemeral use cases that are very prevalent in the industry. With Contiv, you are able to provide the IT administrators the ability to bring containers to life with a very strong policy for networking, for security, for isolation in a very turnkey fashion and a very rapid fashion. And if you really look at more features that we have delivered as part of the whole Contiv framework, out of the box it starts with many features that people really desire, like multi-tenant traffic isolation, micro-segmentation, bandwidth prioritization, policy enforcement for layer 4 through 7 type of use cases. It also has integrated IP address management and service discovery. So this is if you truly think about it, beyond a very standard UCS platform, which is highly successful, the biggest strength Cisco brings is also the entire networking pedigree and how we have very deep expertise and knowledge. What we have done is obviously taken those pieces and brought into the Contiv program. And in the last couple of quarters, we have done significant work with Docker for doing the integration and testing and make sure that the Docker Enterprise Edition can fully support Contiv features and capabilities. And it is available as part of the Docker store as well. And of course, if you're really looking at implementing Contiv in the data center, in your site, we have extensive advanced services. Our services arm trained to be able to come and provide the capabilities for your implementation. So clearly, what comes from our perspective with the Docker is obviously as our customers, as our enterprise customers are embarking on the journey for containerization, as they are looking at a continuation of their existing models, but also want the benefit of the new technology of containers, we from Cisco are providing the right platform for the right set of use cases and the architecture that container brings to the table, along with differentiated technologies around the networking space as well. So with our strengths the joint strengths between Docker and Cisco in providing this end-to-end experience, this is the biggest value for the customers. By working together with the Docker, Cisco is able to bring this together. And as you guys all know, these open source projects and things, they all have to be tested, they all have to be integrated, and they have to be hardened before you could deploy and run them in the enterprise. That's truly the journey that we are on to continue to solve the customer problems of leveraging the evolution of these technologies, but also bringing it together for IT's purpose to bring it together. And we have some additional areas where we are jointly collaborating, and I'll turn it back to Brad to talk a little bit more about this MTA program.
All right, thanks, Eva. So that's great. And so the question is, well, where do we begin? You know, I'm a existing environment. I have a lot of applications that I'm really interested in starting the journey to Dockerize them, to then start to get the benefits of containerization, and eventually to maybe move some of those workloads into cloud, to integrate some of those into my CI/CD pipeline, to really get the efficiencies of containerization. Where do I start? So this is actually a question that we get all the time, and it's kind of interesting because most of what we basically see is that we see that a lot of the enterprise IT teams that we talk to really want to run their applications across a variety of different infrastructures, whether it's on-premises, whether it's in the cloud. They really want that flexibility to move. Even if some of those new deployments are sitting in the cloud, they want the choice of being able to decide where to actually put those workloads and to be able to arbitrate depending on price performance, what goes on premises, what goes into the cloud, and perhaps even one day be able to move them dynamically between one and the other. But what's also more interesting before we even get to the hybrid cloud story is, what about moving between my development teams and the goodness that comes out of my development teams into production? How do I get that faster? And this is honestly the journey that we've been challenged with in enterprise IT for the longest time. How do we make that faster? How do we make that less frictionless? And the biggest issue with that in the past has been that there's just been a completely separate tool chains that have been used by developers versus what's being used in test versus what's being used in production. To the extent that a lot of the times what was used in development and what actually created the original application, when you move that in production, it quite often breaks. And trying to mediate that or remediate some of that, you end up having to spend a lot of cycles to be able to address some of those bridges between development into production. So that's kind of the benefit that what Docker provides, because the common image format, the common tooling that Docker has, really allows you to have one single tool chain, one single API that can bridge across developers into IT ops. So without having to have developers learn everything about how to operationalize a data center, and without having the operations understand how to code, you can actually leverage a tool like Docker to be able to help you move across that journey, across development into production, and across local on-premise data centers into the cloud. So we see that the portability nature of containerization and Dockerization as being one of the key fundamental drivers for our customers to actually begin that journey in the first place. Finally, looking at security, this is obviously a very, very big concern for our customers. How do I make sure that what I deploy into my containerized environment is secure? And it turns out that for a variety of reasons, and beyond the scope of this discussion, that once you containerize your application, it actually becomes more secure versus less secure. And you can probably evidence that even by looking at the footprint. As everyone knows, is if you have a large format which embeds hypervisors, which embeds full Linux operating systems, and then you basically have the application running on top of that, you're susceptible to a lot more attack footprint. Whereas if you're basically starting with a smaller, more lean footprint that containers provide, then that certainly leaves a lot less attack surface for hackers or malignant users to be able to target. So this is also another great consideration why a lot of our users and why some of our customers are really looking at Docker to help them make their environment more secure with containerization and Dockerization. So we've talked about all these three aspects: portability, being able to move workloads from dev into production and moving from on-premise to cloud and vice versa; secure, being able to protect your deployment, reduce the attack surface area, but also to be able to trace where all these different components came from. Docker provides the ability to be able to pull images and pull layers from different places. And it's very, very fundamental to be able to understand where those layers came from, that I have the correct signing privileges, and to be able to enforce those policies to say, if I don't understand or I don't know where this image layer came from, I don't go ahead and run that. I don't build that, I don't run that. So this is a fundamental capability that's built into Docker Enterprise Edition that our customers can benefit from. And last but not least, once you Dockerize and containerize your application, it also becomes more efficient as well. This is definitely something that I probably want to drill down on one step further. We actually worked together on an independent study to look at the savings and efficiencies that you can get by containerizing your application to run on even existing one-for-one infrastructure. And if you look at, take your virtualized environment today, where you have different vApps running across the different VMs, just by going to a containerization model, and as you squeeze more containers into each VM, you become more efficient. You get about 25% savings on that alone. If you completely then decide to go ahead and forego the hypervisor and go direct to bare metal, you get 47% savings. And if you then go into cloud, you get additional 3%, 50% savings. And with that, obviously, if you skip the VM tax and you skip the hypervisor inefficiencies and go direct to bare metal, we're also seeing that deployments become a lot faster as well. Once again, because you're using all the CPU, memory, storage for containers and Docker that's native to the operating system, so it becomes a lot more efficient. And build times have gone down from hours to really minutes by really optimizing on that. So we're seeing a lot of different use cases from across different environments to really get those benefits. So how do we begin this journey? Well, this is really what we announced at DockerCon about a month ago. It's something that we call MTA, or Modernized Traditional Applications. Taking the existing application, and you can use Windows applications, .NET applications, or you can use Linux applications, Java stacks, LAMP stacks. You can take those, and we've actually gone ahead and open sourced a couple of different tools to allow our customers to go down this path. You can point those VMDKs or VHDs that have been virtualized, and you can run those through these tools, and they'll go out and spit out a Docker file to determine what dependencies those VMs have, and be able to assemble what layers that you need to pull in to assemble that stack into a container. You marry that with modern infrastructure, for example, with Cisco UCS to run that on, and immediately you should be able to see savings. The next phase of that is we can then explore starting to integrate that into your Jenkins environment, your CI/CD pipeline of choice, and to be able to get those iteration efficiencies. So you can now start to not just see efficiencies in terms of performance and scale, but you'll also be able to now start realizing those iteration efficiencies as well, being able to develop, be able to run faster and iterate faster as well. And finally, to complete that step, to eventually start decomposing more commonly used services into separate services that you can iterate even faster. And this is where we really start looking at taking your monolithic application and decomposing that into microservices. So this is a program that we announced at DockerCon, as we discussed, and we announced a couple of partners with us that are going on this journey. And this is something that we are very excited to work with Cisco on. And what this will look like when it becomes available is it will be a complete packaged offering that combines the full Docker Enterprise Edition platform, as well as coupled with Cisco infrastructure, as well as professional services to help you through that migration journey. And you know, we're not looking at boiling the ocean. We're looking at you know, 1 or 2 applications to start with, and we'll handhold you through that journey for you to be able to see the results of that. We will have a lot more details coming soon, and I believe over the course of the next month or so, we'll be locking down as far as how to logistically make that happen together with Cisco. So stay tuned for more information on that. So finally, call to action. So hopefully you've liked what you heard so far. There's a lot more details to everything that we've talked about, ranging from the CVDs that Steve talked about to Contiv, through to the MTA program that I just mentioned, as well as security and a lot of different things that can be accomplished jointly between Cisco and Docker on security. So if you're interested to hear more, there's a lot of solutions that are out there today that are publicly available for you to download on the Cisco website. There's also the ability for you to reach out to your local Docker or Cisco sales representative to get a more detailed session. We've also got a lot of information on that website there, Enterprise Edition for Docker. There's also an upcoming webinar that will be double-clicking on container networking with Contiv and Docker as well. And if you are interested in MTA and to explore that more, register your interest at that URL that you see there. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for the time. And I think there's been a couple of questions. Most of them, I believe, have been answered. But if there's anything that we really want to address now, we could probably go through that. Uday or Amit, Siva, and Vish, are there any clarifications that you want to go through before we wrap up the call?
Yeah. One topic I think that came up a couple of times with Siva was, is this a two-pager type of thing? I think that the CVD in itself is actually quite an extensive document, if you guys have seen that, and there are a couple of variations in there available as well. So it is a true step-by-step deployment guide, as well as a design guide that you will find on this. And as we had alluded to early on, the entire solution is completely supported as a single solution by the Cisco support as well.
Great.
Hey, Brad. There are some questions on how people can initiate a POC on the MTA program.
Yeah, so that's good. So once again, if the MTA is of interest, let's go back to this URL, reference that, and really get started there to register your interest. The other thing is to reach out directly to your Cisco or Docker, and they can also guide you directly as well.
Yep. Clearly, MTA as a program, we certainly have a lot of the building blocks towards that program. A more formal announcement or a more formal communication on the program will also be available pretty shortly, so as you're looking for both as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again on another upcoming webinar. Melanie, are you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Siva. Some great material. Just wanted to remind everyone that the session was being recorded and a copy will be sent out to you. And also to please be sure to register for any upcoming Docker webinars at docker.com/webinars. And also check out docker.com/events for customer-facing webinars and events. And once again, thank you for joining us today and have a terrific afternoon.